Now to the war in Israel, where parts of the country were met with these pieces of paper falling from the sky. Israel Defense Forces say it dropped these leaflets pleading for information on hostages held by Hamas. The leaflet promises a reward, confidentiality, and says the Israeli military would invest maximum effort in providing safety to those who have information. The IDF has said that more than 200 people remain hostages following the Hamas attack on October 7th. The White House says 10 Americans are still unaccounted for in the wake of the attack. Some, according to the State Department, are being held by Hamas. President Biden telling reporters tonight that the Israelis are making their own decisions when it comes to a ground invasion. It was in response to this reporting that surfaced Tuesday. Axios, citing two Israeli officials, said Israel was willing to delay its ground invasion for a few days to allow talks on getting more hostages out. John Kirby from the National Security Council had this message for Hamas a bit earlier.
We're going to continue to make sure Israel has the tools and the capabilities that they need to defend themselves. We're going to continue to try to get that humanitarian assistance in. We're going to continue to try to get hostages and people out of Gaza appropriately. And as I think you've heard us say, a ceasefire right now really only benefits Hamas.
Calls for a ceasefire in the war have grown louder in several parts of the world, and that includes here at home in the U.S., where we've seen pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses in cities like New York and inside the Capitol just last week. President Biden has said there will be no such thing until hostages are released. And our next guest wants the president to stay true to those words and not give in to Hamas. Dov Lipman is a former Israeli lawmaker who is a member of Israel's Knesset from 2013 to 2015. He just published this open letter to the president in the Times of Israel. In it, he called out those who are ignoring, in his words, what happened on October 7th. He later goes on, calling President Biden to push harder for the release of hostages, writing, quote, "I know that if there were 200 American hostages anywhere in the world, the U.S. would not provide humanitarian aid to anyone in the region where the hostages were being held." He then adds, if the U.S. pressures Israel to hold back, to be pleasant and compassionate, and to unnecessarily risk its soldiers' lives, then the U.S. will have chosen the wrong side of history. With us tonight from Israel to talk about this letter and what he wants to see President Biden do is Rabbi Dov Lipman. Thank you so much for being here, Rabbi.
Thanks for having me with you, Maritsa.
You've said you're thankful for U.S. support in this conflict, but that support is contingent on certain conditions as to how the army or country act. So what do you mean by that?
There's a growing feeling in Israel, whereas in the very beginning, we were so satisfied and thankful for the United States support. Right now, there's a feeling that, the United States President, the Secretary of State are sitting in the war room in Israel. We're ready for a ground invasion or to bombard Gaza even more. We are against humanitarian aid going in while we have our hostages there. And yet, those things aren't happening. We're not bombarding the way we think we should. We're not invading on the ground, and we're allowing humanitarian aid in. The feeling is that is coming because of the United States pressure. And for me, as someone who grew up in the United States and understands the ethos of the United States, we feel that Israel is being pressured unfairly to not take care of itself, and that there are other agendas at work over here.
You go on to write in your letter, now is not the time for compassion. Now is not the time for humanitarian support and kindness. Now is the time for strength to the nation and nothing but brute force. And then, quote, God will bless the nation with peace. And that goes for our nation here in Israel and yours in America. That's in your letter to President Biden. A couple of questions on that point. I've read recently some advocates for peace saying that people are not their governments, and we should be compassionate because they're innocent people on both sides of this conflict that are not their governments and are not calling for violence. So what do you say to those people?
It's a question which I understand, because the nature of the people of Israel is to be compassionate. That is why we only target the military, the Hamas targets, and not the civilian population. We call off bombing missions to take out Hamas rockets when we see too many civilians there, as opposed to Hamas that came into our country and deliberately targets the civilians. We have now audio of Hamas terrorists, and it's so hard to even say these words, calling their parents and bragging about how many innocent civilians they butchered and the ways that they did so. So we don't want to hurt innocent people, but in war, there are times, and that is what King David says in that verse of God will bless us with strength and then with peace. There are times that's all you can do. The United States of America showed that in World War II, when it bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians, because that was what it had to do in order to win the war and not lose 1 million United States soldiers by attacking the mainland of Japan. There are times that you can't be compassionate. Actually, being compassionate is hurting your own people. That is where we are right now. This is a war in which we must destroy Hamas. And it's sad and it's tragic, but innocent people in Gaza will lose their lives as we do that, because Hamas is using those people as human shields. And when we win the war and destroy Hamas, not only will that relieve Israel from these monsters on our border, it'll actually relieve the people of Gaza, and we be compassionate for them as they can hopefully live normal lives, not under the brutal force of Hamas.
So many innocent people have already lost their lives. Do you see any path forward where no more lose their lives over this?
The only possible path forward is to destroy Hamas. We have been in this rodeo many times, and we've always shown that quote-unquote compassion. We couldn't finish off Hamas because it would involve killing too many people in Gaza. This has been the cycle. We've let money go into Gaza for humanitarian aid that was used to build their terror tunnels, their missiles, their rockets, and everything they used to destroy us in October 7th massacre. We've tried so hard to show that quote-unquote compassion, and unfortunately we have now learned, after seeing our women raped, our babies beheaded, our elderly taken as hostages, and far worse that I can't even describe to you in words, we've now learned that we cannot do anything other than all-out war, destroy Hamas, make sure that every single Hamas quote-unquote militant, which is a terrorist, and their leadership are gone, a new leadership in the Gaza Strip. That is the only option that we have, or else, Maritsa, we are going to face a similar type of attack in the future. And we as a country cannot afford to do that. And therefore, that goes back to that verse again from King David. We must use our strength. We must destroy them. We'll try to avoid civilian casualties, but along the way, sadly, they're using them as human shields. Civilians will lose their lives, but we've already suffered over 1,400 losses on our side. We've suffered over 200 hostages on our side. We've suffered the worst possible massacre we could ever imagine. We cannot allow ourselves to suffer that again. And therefore, we must go all out in war, not hold back at all, do whatever is necessary to destroy Hamas, and then God will bless us, the Gazans, and actually the whole world with peace, because Hamas will no longer be there to threaten anyone in a civilized society.
So let me just ask you, for many people who take the word of God, whether it's the Bible or the Torah, as literal, do you think that the strength could mean something other than strength in force and violence?
Well, there's no doubt that we, as the people of Israel and people who support Israel, people of faith around the world, right now have to dig very, very deep into faith and the strength of faith. What we have experienced, the horrors and the funerals that we're going to and the mourning houses that we're going to, and the level of sadistic behavior that our people were exposed to, we are dipping very, very deep into our faith. And that is why I also know that we're going to win. We're about to read in the weekly Torah portion that we read in synagogues around the world in Genesis 12:3, where it says straight out that those who bless Israel will be blessed, those who curse Israel will be cursed. We believe so strongly in our mission, and this is a battle of good versus evil. This is a battle of right versus wrong, of light versus dark. We live in a world where everything is gray, and no one wants to say there's black and there's white. In this particular case, we know that the word of God and faith is on our side. That is part of the strength as well. But in reading the Bible, you do see that at times people have to attack others. We have to defeat evil, even militarily. It's not an easy thing to do, but when you tap into your faith, you know it's the right thing to do. And that's what we're going to have to do over here. And our soldiers and the people of Israel are ready for that battle. And our call is for the United States and people of faith around the world to join in that battle, and we will win. Good versus evil, light versus dark, faith versus the unfaithful.
Rabbi Dov Lipman, former Knesset member, thanks so much for joining us. Please stay safe.